Welcome to the Light, Camera, Rant Podcast. Your source for the latest on movies, TV shows, and video games. Get ready for ranting, raving, and reviewing. Here is your host, Lee.
Hi everyone, and welcome back for another edition of Lights, Camera, Rant. And on this particular episode, I thought, you know what, with this massive success of what Peacemaker has been, and the awesome cameo, or cameos, or lack of, however way you take it, I thought, you know what, let's go have a look, same as there was characters missing, let's go have a look at all the DCEU movies that are actually missing that we were meant to get. So a majority of all these movies have been announced. So these are movies that have been announced, we're in some sort of production, being written, that we were meant to get. But, some of these will never see the light of day. Similar to my last episode, the Missing Spider-Man sequels, where we had a look at multiple Spider-Man movies that were meant to be announced, were announced, but never came to the light of day. Spider-Man 4, Amazing Spider-Man 3, Spider-Gwen, all of these particular ones which unfortunately, we will never see, or will we? Well, never in their intended time. So I thought I'd do another episode, with the success of Peacemaker, and I thought, let's go have a look. Let's dive into the history of DCEU and see how much it is stuffed up, and Warner Brothers knows jack shit how to plan anything that's called an extended shared universe. Straight up. Still this day, I don't know if it's still Warner Brothers or it's the head of DC Films. One of them is an idiot and can't organize anything. So let's get into it. So when the DCEU first got announced and started getting production was in 2013 with the release of Man of Steel. Now, when this came out, we were so excited. I remember myself, I was like, yes, a new Superman. Yes, a shared DCEU universe, just like Marvel, what we've just seen. And 2013 was just a year forward from when we got the first Avengers movie. So there was real hype on the fact that, oh my god, if they're going to do the same thing, we're going to get Batman see Superman, we're going to get the Justice League. And if you were like myself, or you're a big fan of the Justice League TV show and Justice League Unlimited, you were like, oh, there's so many possibilities. We're going to see Darkseid and Lex Luthor doing, all this shared stuff going on. So the hype was real going into the DCEU, as well as they did a very similar thing. They announced the slate, they did the logos and everything similar to like Marvel. And, at that stage, I'll be honest, the future was the brightest for the DCEU. That was when it was the brightest. Because, when you saw the first trailer for Man of Steel, you had Henry Cavill, who looked great. The music was done by Hans Zimmer, who did the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. Christopher Nolan was a producer. You had Zack Snyder at the helm. And the fact that, he did 300, and that looked gorgeous. And the fact that going into this with the comic book, look of 300, the fact this was going to be fantastic. That is when the future was bright and, everything looked fantastic. It was like, good, ready to go, let's bring it on, the DCU. And it has been, as a DC fan, it has been a very emotional ride to get to this point where I am giving you this episode right now in 2022. So, 11 years later, let's see how that ride went, shall we? So, we got Man of Steel, that came out. So, Man of Steel did very well. It was very positive. It had a budget of $258 million. It grossed $668 million. So it was a win. It was a win. There was no loss for Man of Steel. It was a little bit hate on it, but for me, I think still to this day, with everything we've seen in DCEU, Man of Steel is still holds its own. It's still a very solid movie. in its own right. And you know, Zack Snyder did a very good job. Like, I enjoyed it when I first saw it, from face value, and I had a very hope, especially seeing all the, you know, little cameos and stuff that you saw, Easter eggs to the very extended universe. And as the rest played, the fact that we got Batman v Superman, we got Wonder Woman, we got Justice League, we got Suicide Squad, and Shazam, and the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and as well we've got Aquaman, as the rest follows. Also, Birds of Prey as well. But the thing is, when Batman v Superman, which came out in 2016, it was a follow-up. It got announced the fact that Ben Affleck was playing as Batman and he'll be in this film. Now, at the time, I didn't like the fact that Ben Affleck, of all people, was playing Batman. I'm like, really? Like, nothing of that man, to me, screamed, this is your Batman. This is Batman. But then again, before Batman Begins, I couldn't see Christian Bale, and now I'm like, Christian Bale is Batman. And the Dark Knight trilogy is sacred, and nothing, I will argue with anyone to the point, the fact that is a fantastic effing trilogy from start to finish. Yes, it has its low points, any film trilogy does, but from start to finish, it is one coherent, solid story. Fight me if you think it's not. In the comments, please. Because I'm a bit fragile and I can't take a physical fight, but comments I'm really good to do. So obviously with Ben Affleck as Batman, the whole talk came up with the fact that his own Batman solo movie. Now, the fact that he got confirmed, we got Batman v Superman, which, look, I didn't like Batman v Superman when it came out. I still have half feelings of it at the moment because the fact it felt like they were trying to do too much in that movie. They were trying to set up too much, in that entire film. And I didn't... Okay, I've seen videos of people defending this scene, and I've listened to those people. I've listened to them and gone, all right, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Come on, tell me. The Martha scene. It's still, no. It doesn't... I don't like that scene. I don't... I understand why they did it, but like, oh my god, you're Martha. It's like, oh my god, your dad's Thomas, my dad's Thomas. Oh, we're best buddies now. That doesn't seem real. Like, it doesn't seem right. And when I saw, the trailer and everything, a lot of this material for this movie came from the Dark Knight Returns comic, which, if you haven't seen it, read it, definitely go read the Dark Knight Returns comic. It is one of the most... It's by Frank Miller. It is a fantastic comic. It is dark as anything. And if you're not into comic reading, that's fine. They also made an animated movie of it, part 1, part 2, and they're both fantastic and nearly a near image comparison to the film. So they didn't lose anything from the comic, basically. So obviously when that came out, it came with mixed reviews. It still has mixed reviews today. You go on Rotten Tomatoes. But one thing I did say is the fact that Ben Affleck was a good Batman. The warehouse scene where he takes everyone down is fantastic. I wasn't comfortable with Batman killing. I feel like that is a bottom line that should not be crossed. It's a fundamental of his character. That Batman should not kill. Because the fact that, go have a look at the first episode of Batman Beyond. Watch that, and you'll see the true depth of the character in that. But not... Batman shouldn't kill. No way, no how. I don't care. He shouldn't kill. But the funny thing is, he slightly killed the Joker in The Dark Knight Returns. Unfortunately, he was getting stabbed at the time. Batman obviously was stuck. He's a bit older. Flipped his Joker's neck around and paralyzed him. But it was Joker in the end that actually killed him because he did the last snap-a-rooney. So technically, he didn't kill him. But Batman should not kill. So with everything going on, the fact that Ben Affleck was still very favorable in the entire movie. So obviously, first talks, is when we're going to get a Ben Affleck solo Batman movie, which, as I'm recording this, as this episode will come out, we currently see the Batman coming out, and this is what we meant to, this slate, this time frame, this is when we were meant to get the Batman movie with Ben Affleck. That was, roughly that was when we were meant to get. Yet, let's go down the rabbit hole and find out how the fact we got to Robert Pattinson. Oh my god. So obviously 2016 was when Batman v Superman came out, and in January 2017, Ben Affleck was talking about the fact he was going to direct, star, and write in his solo Batman movie. Come during 2017, in an interview, he advised the fact that he was unsure if he was going to direct it, but still star and still write. Now, in Feb 2017, Matt Reeves, the current director of the Batman at the moment, was hired to direct and co-produce, which, speaking to Ben Affleck and speaking to what they wanted to do, the shift focused from being a DCEU film to just a DC film that we're getting right at the moment. And it was announced the fact that Ben Affleck would no longer be directing, writing, or starring, and this will be completely separate, which kind of got to the point where we are right now. And Robert Pattinson obviously is now starring in him. Now, the interesting thing is that with the hype, everything going with the Batman, Matt Reeves has spoken about the script with Ben Affleck, and he said the fact that it was going to be very DEC related. It was going to be very with a lot of cameos, characters popping in, a lot of action. But the reason why they didn't go ahead with it because he couldn't get personally invested in that story, which is why we got this. And to me, I'm like, what? Like, why? This is like again, like if with Ben Affleck's script, like I still trust the man. The fact it still would have been something different. What are we getting at the moment? We're getting a Batman Year 2, which has been done. That's what I get. Like, you're not telling a new story. You're telling a different iteration of the characters. Yes, it's fresh, different take. But we've already seen a Batman Year 2. We've already seen these characters. And not to mention the fact that we've all got John Manganiello, who played Deathstroke in the Justice League movie right at the end, said it was going to be him versus Batman. They're going to go up against each other. There were going to be cameos from the Justice League. Apparently Batgirl was going to be in it. Riddler was still going to appear. But we're going to get Batman vs. Deathstroke. Go have a look at Batman Arkham Origins. Watch the trailer that got released from that. And you saw Batman vs. Deathstroke, and that was a fantastic fight scene. Obviously it's not real, but just a hand-to-hand combat and all that. That would have been something different. That would have been something new. So, I'm still going to go see the Batman. I'm still going to do my review. I'm still going to watch it. But there's a big question mark on the fact that what were we meant to get? Like, what were we going to get? Come on. Still getting something fresh and new. Like, I'm still pushing the fact that someone, for God's sake, made a Batman Beyond movie. But right at the moment, that's what we're meant to get. This was spoken about. People announced that there were going to be a Ben Affleck Batman movie, but it never saw the light of day, and this is what we get. And it's a darn shame. I'm glad he's coming back, because we know Ben Affleck came back to do the Snyder Cut, and the fact that he's also come back to work on The Flash as well, which he has said was a very positive experience for him, which I'm really glad, because obviously he has mentioned the fact that the shooting for Justice League was just drooling. Very hard to do, because obviously they did the reshoots, but the Snyder Cut he said was perfectly fine for. So that was one movie that we were meant to get that we didn't get. Now this next movie was actually fully announced with a logo. Now, what it was meant to be was a cyborg movie with Ray Fisher. Now, obviously we know we saw Ray Fisher as Cyborg in Justice League, which, it felt like the original cut, the Whedon cut, or Joss Whedon, we do know the fact that when we saw that he didn't have a lot of scenes. He wasn't, had different bits and pieces come around, but it wasn't amazing. But when we saw the Snyder Cut and saw all what was meant to happen, he came from just being the side character to being the MVP and the biggest heart of the entire movie. If you haven't watched already, go watch the Snyder Cut. Please. I know it's 4 hours. Oh my God, trust me. When me, Dean, and Mark from Mike Ward saw it was 4 hours, we're like, all right, this is a mission. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it great. Because of the fact we love these characters, and we were curious to see what was missing. And my God, what was missing? Just the ending with the Flash. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get what studios do and how the decision making that gets made. I'm like, how is that better? Who was the idiot who said that was better? Should be, fired from his job. Whoever said that the Flash scene should be taken away and he should be doing this other scene where he's saving the Russian family. But yes, anyway, that was the massive revelation that we got in the Justice League Snyder Cut. And now everyone's more involved to see the Ray Fisher Cyborg movie. But the thing is, unfortunately with Ray Fisher, he has publicly mentioned the fact that the accusations of abuse and offensive behavior on set with Joss Whedon during the reshoots of the Justice League movie, the original 2016 version. He's publicly said on his Twitter, interviews, and everything, which unfortunately derailed from this movie ever seeing the light of day and kept getting it pushed back each time. And currently, right now, is in complete limbo, and there is no date. Which is one reason why, if you watch the end of Peacemaker and the Justice League, why Ray Fisher's Cyborg isn't there at all. So that's another rumor as well. Because apparently, Joss Whedon was a little bit mean on set, so was an executive as well, and being, very not very nice to him and his co-stars. Even Gal Gadot also mentioned the fact the on-set behavior was appalling. And unfortunately, when you speak out, it can sometimes not go the way you want. And unfortunately, his movie was delayed. It was announced, we were meant to get it, but it's been delayed and is currently in limbo. And it unfortunately might not never see the side of day. What only made it worse is the fact that the Flash movie is based on the Flashpoint paradox, which Cyborg does appear. Unfortunately, Ray Fisher was cut from that and was replaced by Michael Keaton's Batman. And he was cut from that as well. So, look, I don't know. I really do hope he comes back. He has mentioned in interviews the fact that Ray Fisher said he would come back. He would play Cyborg under the direction of Zack Snyder. They're all, of positive people as well. But at this stage, unfortunately, we're not going to see it. He was meant to make more cameos, but that still hasn't happened either. So that's 2 movies we haven't seen. You guys enjoy it and you want to know more what you've missed out on? I'm sure you do, because this next one would have been fantastic because of the fact we were meant to get a Deathstroke movie. We were meant to get a Deathstroke movie with John Manganiello. I probably butchered his name, sorry. Solo dude. Yes, they announced the fact in 2017 they were going to make a Deathstroke movie. Unfortunately, it shifted through some directors, and they came off board, and unfortunately, it kept shifting around, and it kept getting delayed. And John Manganiello said he was going to appear in it, he was going to star. He was really excited. It was going to be very dark and unforgiving with a lot of action as well. And unfortunately, it was going to be a ground story with revenge, while it was going to be amongst with the Batman as well. So it was going to be kind of like a prequel story to lead into the Batman and why he was trying to chase him, and why at the end of the Snyder Cut, he wanted to know who Batman really was, and it was going to go straight into that because the fact that in the story he blamed the Batman for killing his son, and that's the way it went. And Joe's mentioned multiple times that he's completely gutted that it never got left for the ground, and the fact it never saw the light of day. At the moment, his last thing he mentioned, April 2020, he was really hoping the fact a reworked story could appear in a TV series with HBO Max, which I really hope it does. Because, like, Deathstroke is an insane character. And, just the martial arts, just the physical prowess of this character, and, what we saw at the end of Snyder Cut was nearly a perfect comic book rip out and slap on the screen iteration of the character. But another missed opportunity. Like, the fact that would have been fan-effing-tastic, especially off the Batman, Deathstroke. Look, you probably can already hear myself that I'm really much disappointed that these movies didn't get light date. Like, I knew some of these, but when I started digging into more to get more information for this episode, I'm like, what the about the whole, what? That would have been good, 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 but no, we won't. So that's 3 movies that we're meant to get. You still enjoying? Let's keep going. Next movie was another one called Harley Quinn versus the Joker, which was coming off the back of the Suicide Squad movie. Now, this really didn't move a whole lot, but it was announced. Now, it was meant to go in production after the first Suicide Squad. However, it went through a couple of writers, a couple of rewrites, and then it moved to happening after Birds of Prey, but still didn't hit the live day, and by February 2019, it was announced in July 2017, by February 29, it was cancelled. So that was that didn't get very moving, very forward. The next one that got announced was a Joker film with Jared Leto. In 2019, the film was in development, was confirmed. Jared Leto was going to be a producer. The film was intended to make way for more Suicide Squad movies, but by February 2019, it was cancelled, and then we got the Joker movie with Jonah Phoenix. So that's another Jared Leto movie we're meant to get that got cancelled. Another one that was recently actually got more information was that they got announced from DCEU that we're going to make a Trench movie, which was an Aquaman spin-off movie after Aquaman, because, from what we saw in the movie. And it got in February 2019, it was announced. There was Peter Stuffren was attached to produce it, and it was meant to expected to come out before Aquaman 2, which never happened. And then it kind of lay dormant until April 2021, where James Wan, the director of Aquaman and Aquaman 2, said the fact that it wasn't a Trench movie, it was the working title for a Black Manta movie, which that was not, it was meant to be with Black Manta, but that didn't happen, and now he will be appearing, obviously, in Aquaman 2. Yep, so that's another one. So that's what we're up to, guys. Who's keeping account? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 DC movies that we were meant to get, that were meant to be in the DC. Let's keep going, shall we? Now this is the big one. This is the big one. So what was meant to happen you were meant to get the Justice League 1 and Justice League Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Now, with everything that happened with Snyder and Warner Brothers losing complete faith in Snyder, which we can see was a premature idea, never saw the light of day. Now, 2016 was when we got the Justice League movie, but in October 2014, the Justice League movie was announced that it was going to be split into 2 movies, like Infinity War. That was what we were prepared for. However, it was announced the fact that it was going to be the Part 1 and Part 2 was going to be pushed to accommodate for Ben Affleck's Bat movie that was meant to come out in between, but obviously that didn't happen, and then we got the reshoots for the Justice League movie. Now, the reason, I don't know if I have explained to this, but I will explain. So the reason why Joss Whedon did come in during duration of Justice League was the fact because, unfortunately, with my condolences to him, his family, his pets, and everything, was that Zack Snyder's daughter passed away. Passed away all of a sudden, and due to family commitments, he left the Justice League movie to be with his family. Which the Snyder Cut, if you do watch at the very beginning, that is a tribute to his daughter, which it was very sad to see. And obviously, Josh Whedon came in to finish the film, but he didn't finish it. They went in to do reshoots, which is why we got the terrible CGI with Henry Cavill and the mustache. And then he also changed the end credits scene as well, which was still stupid as well. But, as it was going to work, it was the fact that, even J.K. Simmons said the fact that, Justice League Part 2 was in the works. But in December 2017, a year after the Justice League came out, Snyder was not set to return for it at all, obviously, with everything going on. The sequel was meant to have the Justice League versus a villain team with Lex Luthor, Dr. Poison, Captain Cold, the Riddler, Ocean Master, and Black Manta. The conflict would have killed Aquaman and Wonder Woman, so this is apparently what the script was meant to be about. And with the Darkseid invading Earth and killing Lois Lane, who was pregnant with Superman's child. And then Superman's coming to equation to the anti-life equation, which he does give from Earth, because we know that was on Earth. Which leads to the dark future that we saw at the end of the Snyder Cut. With the team, so the dark version. And what was meant to happen was the fact that it was part 3 was the fact that it was meant to be 5 years after the events of Part 2, and the Justice League would time travel to stop the invasion, and would have been a callback to the Batman v Superman scene, with a Flash coming through time and saying, what do you say? Bloody hell. What do you say? Oh, it's Lois. He was saying Lois was seen. So it was meant to be a callback. So we were meant to get Justice League Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. That was the intent, because the fact that we saw on a day, an exhibit happening in Dallas with Dreamscapers with Zack Snyder, is that we still saw storyboards and concept art of what it was meant to be. And me as a fan, looking at these storyboards, what was meant to happen, I'm like, what? We were meant to get all of that? That was the intended purpose? And then, as I keep saying, we just turn around and have a look what we got. I'm like, well, ain't that just disappointing? But yeah, so we were meant to get Justice League Part 2 and 3 with the outlawing storyline, with everything going on, which is why we saw in Snyder Cut, both Wonder Woman and Aquaman dying. There was so much that was meant to happen, but yes, unfortunately, that's another one that was taken away. We're up to 7 now. Actually, that counts for 2. We're up to 8 now. The next one? Now, this didn't really get cancelled, but I wanted to bring this up. So we got the Krypton TV show that we got. However, the reason why I brought this is it's half cancelled. So this was originally meant to be a Man of Steel prequel. It was announced. It was everything was going to happen. Obviously, but during the production, all concept of it being a Man of Steel prequel and a DCEU movie was completely dropped. There was no reason or why or what, but it was completely dropped. And we got the Krypton TV show, but it was intended purpose was meant to be a Man of Steel sequel. But we never got it in the end. It was what we got was all right, but nothing spectacular. But that's another thing that why didn't you go ahead? So the thing is, what you find with these things is these are great ideas that were meant to happen, and it's just terrible the fact that it didn't happen. And the fact that, most of all, the biggest gut punch to me is the fact that Henry Cavill, who is a great actor, should be getting Man of Steel 2, should be being announced. I did see a great tweet the other day that was like, hell, just give Man of Steel 2 to Marvel, because they're more likely to make it than DC, which is 100% fact. If you gave the rights to Marvel, have no doubt the fact that Man of Steel 2 would be announced. 120%. Because the fact that obviously it doesn't have to continue with anything in the MCU, but it would get made. It would get the job done. Because Warner Brothers can't get the job done at all, which we're seeing with all this. So, obviously with Man of Steel 2, Man of Steel 2 came out in 2013. And then in 2014, it was confirmed the fact that it was in development. There was going to be a Man of Steel 2. Amy Adams, who plays Lois Lane, said the fact that work had begun on the screenplay. Matthew Vaughn, who directed The Kingsman, X-Men First Class, was going to come in and direct in 2017. In March 2019, Matt Vaughn stated discussions had ended and he was not directing it anymore. In July 2019, a couple of months later, Christopher McQuarrie had pitched an idea for Warner Bros., but Warner Bros. Didn't do anything with it, so he moved on to another project. So that's 2 directors now. In November 2019, Warner Bros. Entered no negotiations for J.J. Abrams to direct it. So this is the 3rd director. Technically 4th if you count Zack Snyder. Which unfortunately also failed because by May 2020, the sequel was no longer in development. And Henry Cavill said he was still in talks to reprise a role in a different movie. Don't know what that was going to be, or if that how that was going to say. Now, in November 2021, last year, Cavill said that he still was interested in the role, and the cape is still in his closet. He still has the right to appear in the character. There was also a rumor going around that both Michael B. Jordan even pitched a take on Superman as a black Superman, but they couldn't. Warner Bros. Couldn't commit to his schedule. Look, Michael B. Jordan would have done a fantastic job as Superman, but I would have been pissed the fact I'm like, why are you making this, but not bringing Henry Cavill? That's why I don't get. Like, DC, Warner Bros. Needs to completely put everything on the board and figure out their shit. Yes, this year is going to be their strongest year yet, but there's still what if and questions all above it. So still Man of Steel 2, still in limbo. Now, this last movie was called New Gods. It was basically going to be a space movie about, basically beings of like Darkseid's godlike abilities. So this was announced in May 2018. Now, feels like insulting. This was announced in May 2018. It was signed on that Ava DuVernay, signed on to direct the film. May 2019, herself and Tom King would be co-writing the film, and Darkseid was going to be the main villain. Obviously, still the DCEU was still the same Darkseid from the Snyder Cut. In May 2020, Ava said the fact the full script was ongoing and still being written. In April 2020, it was announced by WB that it was cancelled. It said that they may revive it in future, however, it is currently being cancelled. Now, the rumour of the cancel was the fact that because the Snyder Cut and Warner Bros. Wants to distance themselves from using Darkseid because everything was Snyder, they want to give it a break. So that's another, bingo, another movie. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 movies, ladies and gentlemen. 11 movies of the DCEU that we are never going to get. And if I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong. I hope some of these come to the light of day. Sorry, my apology. 10.5 because of Krypton. But I hope these come to life. Like, I really do. That's the thing. Is like, I want to believe, I want to trust in the DCEU, but it's just shown when you look into this and you're like, what are you doing? Honestly, what are you doing? And the terrible thing is the fact it's not like, this is their first swing. They're giving it a good crack. There's going to be some gaps in the whole thing. No, let's go have a look at the other pond and let's go have a look at the MCU that is literally pumping them out with pure precision. Nearly 99% of everything getting announced we see 100%. The DCEU needs a Kevin Feige. I've mentioned this in my previous podcast episodes, but they need a Kevin Feige to just come in, take the reins, and be like, this is what we're doing, and we're committing to this unless the numbers completely effing drop. Now, yes, the Justice League did do poorly. The 2016 version did do poorly. However, have a look at how the Snyder Cut did. That did fantastic, and that is nearly classified as one of the single best comic book movies in the same breath. And honestly, it is a true tribute to what the fact Zack Snyder's vision was meant to be and what we should have got. If we got that instead, or the fact that a trimmed down version for theaters, and then you could have bought the extended version, it would have done very well, and a lot of people have been more in love with it. Because the 2016 version of Justice League is trash. It is bad, it's coherent, and the fact if you can go watch a movie and you can feel like something's missing, it's off, and you know it's off the entire time, which I felt when I watched it. But I'm not saying the fact that DCU has not had hits. Like, James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie is fantastic. First Aquaman is great. The first Wonder Woman is great. Man of Steel is great. They have had wins, but they can't seem to keep that momentum going in their structure for the movies. So that's, they really need a Kevin Feige. And look, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. And, as anything I've mentioned right now, you wish they made? Do you wish they made the fact that Justice League 1 and 2 and 3, Man of Steel 2, the Batman, Deathstroke, the Joker film, the Trench? Do you want me to go? Do you want me to go on? But yeah, just tell me in your comments or on Facebook. Just let me know, is any of these you do wish to come to light today? And do you feel the same way? So do you feel, guys, that the fact that DCU is on track now, that they know what they're doing, or do you feel the train's still lost somewhere, or the plane's still going into the wrong direction? Let me know in the comments, guys. And thank you for tuning in for this episode. And until next time,
thanks for listening to Lights, Camera, Rant. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a rating and review, and be sure to tell your friends. Until next time, happy ranting.